Hello and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we are very pleased you have joined us for the Precious Metals and Critical Minerals Conference. Our next presentation of the day is from Spartan Metals. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for a one-on-one meeting by clicking Book a Meeting in the top toolbar. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Brett Marsh, President and Chief Executive Officer of Spartan Metals, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol SPRMF and on the TSXV under the symbol W. Welcome, Brett.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here. Spartan Metals launched earlier this year, August 5th, as a critical metal exploration company with our flagship project in Eastern Nevada. As I continue through, the audience may notice I get pretty excited about some of this stuff because I think it's a very attractive deposit, but please bear in mind that there are some forward-looking statements and some statements that you might want to dig into a little bit deeper and do some due diligence around. So why did we bring Spartan Metals together? And really, it comes down to a couple of really good things. Is what makes us important, or I'm sorry, what differentiates us from other companies is really the fact that we have probably one of the best tungsten assets in the United States, cornerstone by some unique additional critical metal credits and contributions from rubidium, for example. We have a really excellent exploration team that's spent many years working in and around the United States and Nevada, and specifically within multi-commodity critical metal projects. As a result of that, we've got a lot of experience actually working with folks within the Department of Defense and working to submit non-dilutive grant applications and so on and so forth to the organization to help fund and move projects forward. And as a result also of that experience that we have, we've got a lot of contacts within the industry, so we can build a series of projects and bring strong relationships that can kind of help de-risk some of the projects as we go forward. So a little bit more about myself. I've been in the business about 25 years. I've held leadership roles in major mining companies and exploration juniors throughout my career. Worked in many different environments and different resource types in North and South America. Most recently, I worked for at the McDermott Lithium project in northern Nevada, southern Oregon. Rebecca Ball is our Vice President of Exploration. She brings a lot to the table in terms of data analysis and experience and really defining and understanding geological environments. One of the things that I get a lot from investors is really trying to help them understand what tungsten and rubidium are, and in conjunction with, or how they apply to several different critical metals and what they actually do for the industry. So when you think about tungsten, it's really something that's used primarily as an industrial application today, but also has applications in technology and electric vehicles. And more recently, it's actually started to be used as a hardening agent for military armaments and steel. It hasn't been mined in the United States since 2015, and China dominates production at almost 82% of worldwide production. So it's very critical that we onshore this critical metal. Rubidium, on the other hand, think just high tech, and so most aspects, it's produced as a byproduct, primarily from lithium extraction at very low grades. As you'll see as we go forward, we have it at pretty significant grades at the Eagle project. Where tungsten was primarily an industrial military type application metal, rubidium, on the other hand, is very high tech. It's being researched heavily as the main component for next generation telecommunications, quantum computers, and quantum computers feed into future artificial intelligence applications and faster computing. Military also has a very significant contribution or significant consumption of rubidium in terms of use in atomic clocks, night vision goggles, and so on. The atomic clocks are really augmentation for missile guidance systems or high precision GPS systems that kind of help make navigation much more precise. When we take a look at these two metals, again, they're metals that investors are typically not too familiar with. So I try to put them into context that they might be more familiar with in terms of copper and gold. So as far as tungsten goes, when you look at it as tungsten trioxide, which is the typical reporting measure, 1% of that today is as valuable as almost 6.5% copper. So when I present some of the numbers here in the future, or in future slides, just keep that in mind as 1% tungsten, about 6.5% copper. On the other hand, rubidium is also extremely valuable. 1 ounce of rubidium in the industry is worth about 3/4 of an ounce of gold. And gold today is around $4,200 an ounce. So you can actually see that there's a lot of value potentially from rubidium within the project. A little bit more direct about the project. What do we have? We got a little bit over 20 square kilometers of land in eastern Nevada, right along the Utah border, which includes 3 past producing mines that were operational in the 20s, 30s, 40s, World War II timeframe. We have 2 tungsten mines in Tungstonia and Reese. And in Antelope, we have a silver, copper, antimony polymetallic mine. We have, in this large land package, we have the potential for several large deposit types, including porphyry, which is the main system at Tungstonia, skarn, and carbonate replacement, which tend to be pretty unique. So we're actually actively pursuing 3 opportunities here to delineate really a large and potential high-grade district for tungsten and rubidium. We have break it out into 2 claim blocks. We call it Tungstonia and Reese. And since we have past production, we also have a tailings facility that we can take a look at. A little bit more specifically about where we're at. You can see here we're in eastern Nevada, very close to the Utah border, very close to the town of Ely. It's about an hour drive or so along a paved road to the south. So we get into the project area. Then we follow a county maintained dirt road, gravel road rather, into the 2 project areas. Very well maintained. Actually, the county gets out there, I think, quarterly and does nice maintenance on it. So it's very easy access. And we, recently had heavy equipment out there, so it's passable until late into the winter. We have the town of Ely nearby, which is about a 5,000 person city. It has about a 125-year history of mining, very close to the Robinson copper mine. We're about 3 hours outside of Salt Lake City and about 2.5 hours or so, or 2 hours south of the town of Elko. So there's a lot of mining infrastructure and history around us. The infrastructure is extremely good. Talking specifically more about Tungstonia, as I mentioned before, it had past production, and we have exposures at the surface that we've actually taken a look at and assigned a historical or an exploration target to the historical data that we have been able to uncover. So in this area, you can see up here in the northeastern portion of the claim block where we have the 2 mines noted. It's about 700 meters by about 1,200 meters in size. It actually accounts for that historic exploration target of about 3 to 4 million metric tons at the historic reported 0.6 to 0.9% tungsten. And so these veins are actually about 3 meters in thickness and approximately 200-meter spacing. And that's kind of important because it follows a regional structural trend that we're using to continue to explore. And so at the end of September, we closed our first capital financing, which was 2.25 million Canadian. And we immediately started putting it into exploration at Tungstonia with the key initiatives to extend these known historic veins toward the south. Previous rock chip sampling at the surface. It also yielded very high-grade tungsten and silver on trend with existing veins that allowed us to extend them from about 700 meters to over 2.5 kilometers. And so our focus here going into the fall and winter is going to be to continue to do exploration and sampling in terms of soil, surface mapping, and other types of sampling to identify additional extensions of these veins. But then also during our surface sampling program in 2024, we noticed a regular spacing of high-grade tungsten that had occurred over here on the western side of the deposit as well, that occurred at the very similar spacing that we saw around the historic Tungstonia mine. So we're theorizing that there's potential veins over on the western side that we're looking to verify. And as you see there, we initiated our surface sampling program on October 20th. We've collected about 2,100 total samples over the course of, or over the Tungstonia and Reese claim blocks at about 100-meter spacing, 100-meter grid across. So hopefully that'll yield us some exceptional news. One of the other things that we've seen recently is that we have a potential for a carbonate replacement deposit over here in the southern portion of the Tungstonia claim block, where we have a granitic intrusion that has intruded into some carbonate materials. And so as these veins and structures transmit or allow mineralizing fluids to flow, the carbonate material or the carbonate rocks actually act as an attenuator and help to precipitate out mineralization. It's usually the model that's formed. And so where we have these intersections of any of these veins with this contact here across the south, we have a high potential for a carbonate replacement deposit, which actually tends to have high lead, zinc, copper, antimony in this case, and silver in our case. We have almost up to 900 grams per ton silver that occurs through here. So it's a very exciting potential for us. Talking a little bit about rubidium as we go through this. So the previous veins I was discussing were tungsten and silver on these that are about 1 meter to 3 meters in thickness. And what we notice around here is that there's an alteration halo around each vein that extends up to 2 to 5 meters on either side that is enriched in rubidium. And recent rock chips have shown that we've got up to 2,000 parts per million rubidium. If you look at that on a gram per ton basis, as far as 2,000 grams per ton, and think about the conversion to gold that I had mentioned before, or the equivalency to gold rather, has a high potential for some pretty significant value to be added into the project in addition to the existing tungsten and silver that we have here. And so as we have done our exploration over the course of the last several months, we continue to see very consistent high-grade rubidium along all these veins, as I said, but then also along areas where we were talking about in the carbonate replacement. But we also see a very large zone in the southeastern portion that's just a massive enrichment of rubidium, and tungsten in this area. So we think that there could be a potential for not only vein mineralization and extraction in this portion of the claim block, but we have a bulk tonnage potential for rubidium in a southeastern portion of the ore body of the claim block. As I mentioned, the past production yielded a tailings reprocessing area, so it has a near-term opportunity for us where we think there's some still metal that can be recovered. We estimate there's anywhere between 9,000 and 10,000 tons of material here at a relatively decent grade. So you can see the tungsten grades here average about a 0.15% tungsten, which is near cutoff for some operating projects in the world. We still have around 450 parts per million rubidium, which can add significant value, and about 7 grams per ton or so average gold from surface samples we have taken. So in the week of October 16th, we actually came in to do some characterization on this tailings pile, and we drilled 34 holes on about a 5-meter spacing, to really understand what we could have there geochemically. And 2 additional holes were sampled in totality and sent off for metallurgical testing. So we actually have a good understanding of how to recover the tungsten and the rubidium from this, and hopefully assign some economic potential to this. It has about the consistency of a coarse beach sand. So it should be, relatively straightforward for us to get in there and claim this area and potentially monetize any metals that we could recover here. Let's shift gears just a little bit, as I've been talking primarily about our Tungstonia claim block, a little bit about our Reese claim block, where we have, as I mentioned earlier, two past producing mines. We have the Reese mine, which is a tungsten operation that produced near 1% tungsten in its prime. We have a couple samples from nearby in the dumps where we still have 0.75% tungsten and relatively good grades of a silver contribution as well. We also see very, very nice grades of copper and silver in the same area. The Antelope mine was a little bit unique, where it was mined for a high-grade tetrahedrite vein, kind of running in direction here, almost east-west. You see from our chip samples that we took in that area, where we had about 1.5% copper. Reported production on copper from Antelope was about 4%. And we had almost 2,000 grams per ton silver reported here as well, or sampled here, with head grades of silver back in the 40s and 50s reported at almost 1,000 grams. So it's definitely a unique opportunity for us to have a secondary set of exploration targets to work with. As I mentioned, the company went public as Spartan at the beginning of August. So we've got a very tight share structure currently, 37 million, just over shares on a non-diluted issued and outstanding, 10.5 million warrants, and which brings us to a fully diluted 47.7 million shares. So we had two raisings associated with the project, or the company rather, thus far. Initial capital infusion was required to get us promoted onto the TSX Venture Exchange. So that was a 5-cent raise with a 7.5-cent warrant, and those warrants will expire in April 2026. We recently completed a 30-cent raise at the end of September, which as I mentioned, brought in 2.25 million. Again at 30 cents, and so those 45-cent warrants, almost 4 million, will expire at the end of March. You can see the board and management control a significant portion of the stock, and the former CEO also controls about 8% of the stock. So we have a very tight share structure, very engaged partner in Ridgeline Minerals, who was the company that we actually acquired the Eagle project from at the beginning of the year. They hold about 16% for us today, so there's some very committed and strong shareholders that are willing to or ready to drive this project forward and make it successful. How do we compare to some of our competitors? What's our upside potential, or what's our niche? So when we take a look at a couple of things, or when I was taking a look at this project initially, I wanted to understand where Tungstonia could potentially be in relation to other known projects here in the United States. So on the left side, we see the some of the projects here in the United States as reported from the U.S. Geological Survey. Average tungsten grade on the left, the tonnage and resource across the bottom, which is essentially indicated resource or better. So some resources here that might be inferred only are not included. And you kind of see where the bubble size is essentially the contained amount of tungsten within each. So Tungstonia here, as you can see, is one of the highest grade deposits, and has the potential, actually, as I showed through the extension of those veins and the discovery of new veins to the west, potential to grow pretty significantly and be a pretty substantial contributor to tungsten production in the United States. Again, since we're relatively new, our market cap's still pretty low and reasonable. So it's a good entry point, in my opinion, compared to some of the other prospectors, or other exploration and development companies that are available here in the industry. One of the things that we should know is that The company has been compared to American Tungsten in a couple of different occasions, just because of similarities of development and acquisition of assets. We can see here that from their inception to the acquisition of their first asset in 2024 until just the recent close, we've had a significant run-up of stock. Spartan has performed very well. We expect to continue to perform well in the future, primarily because we believe in our asset again. The project is at surface, where many of these other exploration projects are more deeply buried and underground. We have a potential to be very large, and we have high grade. And so those things combined, in my mind, yield a pretty significant project. So what's the strategy for us going forward is really to focus on developing tungstonia, but also look to potentially diversify our portfolio with tungsten as the foundation of the project. We'd really like to bring in some other potential critical metals into our portfolio to make sure that we're not overexposed in any one metal, but also knowing that tungsten is our future. Really look at some of these projects very critically. Really, it's not a case where we're actively searching for new projects, because I think the 3 projects that we have at the Eagle project, the Eagle District, Eagle project, are pretty significant, and they're really gonna do well for us. So it gives us the opportunity to really take a critical look at any projects that come our way. Really going to be working our relationships and our experience and contacts within the Department of Defense and other potential joint venture partners within the industry to move projects forward. And for the next 6 to 12 months, we'll be looking to do the basic things exploration companies do to establish main resources, put drills in the ground, and really understand what we have subsurface and understand potential economics, and deliver value in that regard. And as I was just mentioning, so we have gone through in the past several months and characterized our tails. We've begun working to define the vein system at Tungstonia and really understand the historic production and how that relates. We've taken some looks into the bonanza grades that we see at Reese and Antelope as far as extending our surface and soil samplings over there. And so as we go forward, we'll be looking to continue that. We're going to engage with potential partners in the Department of Defense here shortly. Work with to understand more the CRD potential that we have specifically at Tungstonia with our new discovery, and get some drills on the ground and really understand what we have. So the Eagle, in summary, right? We have a high-grade past-producing district. I think we have some very significant exploration upside. That's really what gets me the most excited about this, and why I continue to be impressed every time I go out to the site. There's actually something new for us to work on and leverage and grow the resource. And as we mentioned, we're relatively new, so we're valued very attractive relative to our peers, and so we've got a lot of potential. So I think as we go forward, continue to execute and deliver good results on our work in the field, everybody will be have success. And so with that, I think I'll turn it over to question and answer. But these, if you want to get in touch with me or others, here's the contact information for us. So first question here is, how do you think about the ultimate end game for Spartan? Standalone producer, strategic sale, or long-term joint venture? And what combination of de-risking milestones would you maximize your negotiating leverage in each scenario? Really good question. For us, Spartan is really going to sit back on its experience and do what we do successfully. So that's really early stage project generation and development, and partner assets, right? So we really want to take advantage of what we do well. I'm not going to say that we're going to go and turn Tungstonia into a mine as Spartan, because our experience and our passions are actually in discovery and development. And so when we get to that stage, as I mentioned, we'll be looking to partner with really strong joint venture partners to take these assets the distance. You mentioned expedited permitting via executive order, but what is the realistic permitting timeline in Nevada? Have you engaged with state regulators on a tailings reprocessing approach? At this point, what we've engaged with the regulators on is just working the tailings to understand what we actually have there. When we get a better understanding of what we have within the ground, our next step would be to engage with those regulators to understand requirements. It's interesting, the fact that we're able to approach this as a reclamation project actually gives us a little bit of a different categorization, if you will, in permitting than going the route of a full mine plan of operations. So there's options there that we've yet to explore, but I think that my experience so far with Nevada legislature and Nevada regulators has been very positive, and they've been open to working with us. And I think that most in Nevada are very, very keen to play a part in this critical metal onshoring the supply chain aspect of what we need here within the United States. Next question. What are the key signals investors should watch for? Drill results, metallurgical updates, DoD interactions. What would indicate you are moving forward from story and potential to a credibly financiable critical metals project? It's just that. I mean, so drills on the ground, drill results coming in. We get good explanation of targets. Obviously, if our metallurgical results don't pan out like we hope they will for the tailings, again, that'll be something that we'll be looking for. So far, I think everything that we've actually seen so far has been very positive. So we're very encouraged by that. So I think just looking for the normal things that companies do, that exploration companies put together. First step for us is going to be, like I said, understanding the potential at the tails. But then, when we start getting results from our drill programs at Tungstonia, who comes in and who is interested in helping partner with us. Next question here is, does the tungsten occur in scheelite here? Excellent question. Actually, the tungsten at Tungstonia occurs as a mineral called hubnerite, which is the manganese end member of wolframite. So we actually have a manganese tungstate primarily at Tungstonia. That being said, at Reese, our mineralization is in scheelite. And we've had evidence in our CRD potential area in the southern portion of Tungstonia, where we have scheelite as well. It's combining there, so it'll be interesting for us to get some metallurgical results and testing back once we get drills on the ground. Next question here. How many total hectares of land do you own? We don't own the land outright. We're basically have mining claims over the federal land system through the BLM. We've got just over 7,000 acres at the moment under claim. Why was it so important to increase the number of claims at Eagle? How does that impact your work plans? Yeah, so it was really important for us because as we were out executing our surface exploration program, we continued to see favorable mineralization outside of our existing claim block, and we needed to make sure that we had that locked up, and we were actually able to maintain control over the main portion of our asset or around our asset. And so for that, we basically doubled our claim holdings at Tungstonia. Both are on the east, west, and south to really make sure that we can make the discoveries that we think that are present. Over the course of the next year, what work are you planning to do, and what are your objectives? Good question. So essentially, over the next year, we're going to be, bringing in the results and trying to distill those down into economically viable work plans, specifically for the tails. But then we'll also be, generating new drill targets to start hitting in the spring at Tungstonia rather. And so those results will actually be coming out toward the end of the summer and into the fall as we begin to execute there. And so then we would, essentially continue, moving the company forward with reactions to the results that we see from the ground. So with that, I see that there's actually no more questions here in the Q&A. So with that, again, I'll end the discussion. And again, if you have any questions, our contact information is there on the screen.